So I want to spend some time today talking about the new OpenAI API that dropped and how it reshapes the agent ecosystem. So this is an agent-focused API. It's focused on helping developers who are using OpenAI products to build agent and multi-agent systems, to do so safely, to do so reliably, to do so with efficient controllability so it's easy to manage these agents. So far, so good. Obviously, this is not the first release in that category. Claude Model Context Protocol has been out for a bit and is doing very, very well. LangChain is out and has been used for a while because it's essentially gives you, as a developer, complete control over how you want the agent to look, work, what underlying model you use, etc. Whereas OpenAI is obviously going to say, use OpenAI. And I want to sort of think a little bit at the end of the first quarter here in 2025 about how this tooling stack that's starting to emerge is shaping the way we think about agents, because this was supposed to be the year of agents. This was supposed to be the year when businesses of all sizes and consumer applications were going to start using agents. And what I've seen so far is really not in line with that expectation. Broadly speaking, I see enterprises being able to use stacks like the LangChain stack to build effective agents for commercial applications if they have strong LLM expertise already. If they don't, then they have trouble getting those agents to work well, because agent building is a separate specialty. It's a complex task. It's not the same as other LLM engineering tasks. You have to define the scope that you want your agent to engage with. There's control surfaces, there's evals, etc. And I am thinking that this release from OpenAI doesn't really change that fundamental equation. I think it's basically a defensive play. And I think the timing is really interesting, because conversation on Claude Model Context Protocol and how Composio is exploding as a way to make all of those MCP servers more viable, more easy to use, more easy to set up. That was all exploding just last week. And I think OpenAI looked at that. They looked at the advantage that Claude was starting to steal in the ecosystem by being an anchor model for a protocol that developers were adopting like crazy. And they said, we can't have this. Like, we have to release something. Lo and behold, right, here's a surprise 10 a.m. press conference, or whatever you want to call it, the 10 a.m. podcasting from their little table. And there you go. They released their little API. I just don't see it changing much. I think it's going to be helpful if you already use OpenAI and you are an OpenAI shop. I think it's not that there's anything wrong with the API. It looks like a high quality API. I haven't had much of a chance to play with it, but there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Like, it looks like a good API. It's just that, strategically speaking, unless you are dedicated to using OpenAI models, there's not a compelling reason to use this API and not use MCP and not use LangChain or LangGraph. They don't have a differentiator other than the underlying model. And I think that's one of the things that ecosystem players need to think about, is beyond the underlying model that they're going to have, is there a differentiator in the way they've set up the ecosystem that's compelling? And I think with MCP, for better or worse, some people love it, some people hate it, it's the servers. For LangGraph and LangChain, it's the classic approach of using open source. That's by itself is a differentiator. Where does that leave OpenAI? What's their differentiator? It's not clear yet. And so, as much as I appreciate the work that went into the API that they built, and I think it's a good quality API, I don't know that it really advances much strategically for OpenAI. But we will see. Let me know what you think.